Oh boy.
Okay, so we are live coast to coast and border to border on iHeartRadio today. We've got Roger Homefield back in the saddle with us. He is kicking ass and taking names. Uh, and then, of course, then we have IQ Al Rizzoli. And IQ is with us this week. And IQ, IQ is on fire as usual. So Roger, I have got to ask. I have got to kick things off here and get your
Oh boy.
take on this Muslim guy who is running in Michigan.
Oh, Abdul?
He won the primary, and everybody loves him because he's a big TikTok guy and all this stuff.
You're talking about Abdul?
Yes, good old
Abdul?
Abdul.
You mean Abdul? I fool you, you fool? That's who he is. That's exactly who he is. And people are so stupid. And I just read some recent thing. Some local mayor instructed the commission on this judge. And the whole thing could have been fake anyway. Who knows on Facebook? You don't know real from fake. But this Muslim girl, this lady, was going to become a judge, and she was in full Muslim garb. And the mayor said, no, the religion should have nothing to do with this, blah, blah, blah. And absolutely, it should have everything to do with it. Her belief system has everything to do with it. If she's able to swear upon the Bible to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, that's fine and dandy. But if you can't, and you have to use the Quran instead, well, there's a contradiction there. That just doesn't work. And people need to start to understand this. And IQ, the Republicans are so terrible at packaging and marketing and campaigning. That's something that they should be explaining to people. There's so many things they should be explaining to people. The whole right movement as far as childbirth, this whole thing about abortion, IQ, it's less about women's rights, more about let's have less childbirth from the Westerners while the Muslims outbirth us 10-1. The same thing with the transitioning gay movement. I believe that that's all part and parcel of the whole damn thing. What say you?
It is, by the way. It is. It is. They're linked together.
Uh,
All of them are used by the Muslims as useful idiots. And they are useful idiots. Whether they are academia or transgender or Democrats, they are all useful idiots. And the Muslims are using them beautifully. I've got to give them credit. They're using them very well.
They're playing us like a cheap fiddle, IQ. I just always felt that the Americans had that rugged individualism enough that they wouldn't allow things to get out of hand as far as they have already gotten, that they would have stood up to this. And like this ongoing situation in Texas with this city, this Muslim city within a city is what it is, on again, off again. And I frankly, I'm surprised that there hasn't been a huge uprising, vigilante or otherwise, whatever the hell you want to call it. Because the people, the local yokels that are in the commissioners and the this and the that's, that are like, give them the permits like nothing. You know what it's like to get a permit to do a building or a business or this or that. But the Muslims all these years, Jiggy, Nate, NAIT has been, funding these mega mosques for all these years, and they just get permits for boom. Then they come whisking out the window. It's like pancakes being thrown out of the window. These permits where a normal person trying to open a business or construct a 25,000-foot religious structure, I don't think that they would get these permits whisking through like all these mega mosques were whisked through. I don't know why and how I got onto that subject. It's all connected, though, as IQ would agree. It's all connected. It's one big con job, one big FU to Western society, who to this point, as far as the public IQ, still seems to be completely
Oblivious.
doesn't oblivious, just completely oblivious. Okay, completely oblivious. Okay, I was with a group of normal people the other day, Nice
Group
guy.
of normal people. That's awesome.
And they just don't know anything about this stuff. Like nothing.
So they can't be normal, can they?
No, that unfortunately, that's what's normal in America.
They, they can't be normal.
Yeah, Isabel,
Normal people are usually in tune with factual reality. It's the
From the
abnormal
generation
ones who
you and
are.
I remember. Yeah, well, no, but these people of my generation too. I don't know. It's extremely frustrating. And Jiggy, I'm waiting for the space people to come down. And I don't expect them all to be good ones, though, IQ.
By the way,
Yeah,
Roger,
go ahead.
the Texas city, the Muslim one,
Yes.
if you follow the money trail,
Hmm.
the money trail, you will find out that millions of dollars have been paid to the people who already approved it.
Uh-huh.
Millions of dollars. As you said, an
Yeah.
ordinary American will take him years to get permits like that. Years.
Right. Right.
Millions of dollars. Follow the money trail and you will be surprised. The trouble is, you don't have the media to do the job because they are
Yeah.
corrupt.
They used to be the fourth branch of government to protect us from
Forget
stuff.
it. They never were. They never were. Maybe only in World War II. But after that, gone.
Jiggy, a lot of the infiltration that we have is this country's own fault because we had so many sons of bitch non-patriots to sell out and take bribes and fast track anything Islam. It's disgusting. And I hate to say that, well, we're not going to deserve what we may get because it's not all of us that deserve it. But unfortunately, everybody's going to get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, everybody will get it. Yeah. That's a fact.
It's still a situation where nobody knows what's going on. And Jiggy, I'm not sure what airwaves see this story or hear you, or if they're in District 25, which is the east coast of Florida. It's a new district. And Joe Kaufman, who's like one of the world's leading authorities on terrorism and terrorist organizations. You would love this guy, IQ. He's been an investigative journalist for years. He writes articles on Front Page Magazine. He's run against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. He lost by just 5 points to Moskowitz. And if this guy could get in as a congressman, that would be such a great thing for the country because we just have a few people up there that know what's going on and who give a damn. So, folks, please, Jiggy, I hope it's okay I'm doing this, but if you're on the east coast of Florida, District 25, vote for Joe Kaufman for Congress. He's running against, this is for the primary between now and August 18th. Because he's running against a couple of guys that are claiming they're making it look like they're endorsed by Trump, but they're not. They've just got these pictures, so it's kind of frustrating that there's so much BS in this particular business. But anyway, sorry to go off on that. But Joe Kaufman for Congress, District 25, because it's relevant to everything we're talking about. This is one of the few people. He's the one that introduced me to Dave Gobbets 20 years ago, okay? Joe Kaufman is somebody that I sought out because 2000, it was, not long after 9/11, I'm starting to scratch my head and I'm reading all the articles, IQ, and every article I read is making the infidels out to be really bad people and the poor Muslims that are worried about our backlash, this whole thing, well, I don't have to explain it to you that this whole the Muslims are the victim thing. Of course, it was after 9/11, it was like major. And the Jewish women were all going with the Muslim women to the grocery stores dressed like Muslims because that's what Jewish people do. They did the same thing for the blacks. Like it really helped with the black community, didn't it? But that's a whole nother story. But it's just a cry and shame, IQ. The whole thing that they've got Western civilization so seemingly bamboozled into a submission of just exhaustion or apathy or just, I really don't know what it is. We've discussed this ad nauseum, you and I. The Stockholm syndrome, suicidal empathy, whatever the hell you want to call it, cowardice, or I think it's kind of affect IQ and Jiggy where everybody is so tuned into TV and the screen that it's kind of like real life is just something else. It's something that's really happening on the screen. They don't have to get out in the streets like the Minutemen. And besides, there's cameras. I don't know, IQ. I'm quite concerned, to say the least, because it's very easy to lose track of what the main objective really still needs to be. And that's to have it's not just enough to have a victory in November. We really need a strong victory, because if we don't get a strong enough victory to push back these socialists, they will come back in a larger wave the next time, just like the ocean. But you got to push it back far enough, flatten them, so that they don't come back. But I'm very concerned for the country, IQ. I want to be optimistic.
Well, we have some good news that Francesca Hong lost, although everybody was saying she would win.
Well, 0.4 of a point. Yeah, right. You're right.
Yeah, but she didn't lose. She was made to lose by the democratic hierarchy.
Okay.
Because she was a liability. Every time she opened her mouth, it cost them votes. They had to get rid of her, and they got rid of her. Yeah. Let me explain something to you about what's happening.
So what else good is happening? I mean, I'm in minor shock with Iran, but I'm sticking around that there's nowhere else to go. And I guess what I'm hoping, IQ, is that we'll wake up one day and they'll say, "Yep, today was the day that Iran actually collapsed with this economy blockade." You know, with the
it will. Blockade. It will.
When? I can.
It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
Well, it does matter because the American people.
No, we waited 47 years. So calm down. All right.
I agree with you. But
so if you agree with me, let's use intelligence, not get emotional. 47 years we waited. Okay. So a few more months is not relevant. They are not relevant at all.
I'm okay to wait as long as it takes, personally.
No, I'm worried about that long.
I'm worried about the.
I'll tell you what. By November, it will be over. By November, it will be over.
Well, that'll be great, because that's when the election is.
Look, they have no economy. They have zero economy, and if they can't pay wages, they are finished. I don't care how much they can shout. It doesn't matter how many times they shout Allahu Akbar. He will screw them anyway. Why? Because Allah is not God.
So when Trump keeps talking about a deal, he's just.
It doesn't matter. He knows it's not a deal.
Waiting for them to collapse.
He knows it's not a deal. He's saying it for the public.
Yeah.
Because the public is too stupid to understand what's happening.
Public doesn't want to know what's happening. You know, it's like Americans have. Look, I love Americans, but there's one thing: is that Americans got spoiled. And really had a feeling.
What do you mean get spoiled? They are spoiled.
Well, are spoiled, fine. And have a feeling of this entitlement. And it's like, well,
Roger, please.
How dare the war is more than 3 months.
Roger.
It's like, it's unbelievable, really.
Think about it. The worst of Americans, the poorest American is richer than any of the middle classes in Latin America and Africa and Asia. The poorest American, okay? They eat better, they have better health services and everything. So they are spoiled. The way we have to wait. We have to wait. Hey, listen. They want to have instantaneous victory. You can't have instantaneous victory. World War II lasted 6 years with 60 million people dead. This is only 6 months.
They want instant gratification with everything, whether it's music or whatever it is.
Trump is ignoring it.
Yeah.
Trump is in fact ignoring it. He is depending on one thing. Oil is coming out, by the way. A lot of ships are coming through. Look at the price of oil. It's about $80 or $70.
Yeah, it's not terrible. It's not terrible.
Exactly. And we are talking about a condition of war.
Right. Exactly.
So all the shouting and screaming and the threats, within 2 years, no oil will come through Straits of Hormuz. Not a single drop. All of it will go overland.
Yeah. And the other thing about Trump, in his defense, you know, when I myself say, "Oh boy, I'm getting impatient," and you know that I've been behind him 1,001%. You know that. But in his defense, the reason this is taking a long time, folks, is because he's trying to do a whole bunch of things all at once and then have it hopefully all pop together and work, which is peace in the Mideast, basically peace everywhere. if he can get the Russian thing, if he can get them to stop. And that's a shame, all those young boys that are being slaughtered and killed totally unnecessarily every week. It's totally ridiculous, but that's a whole other thing. But Trump is trying to stitch together a peace plan for the whole Mideast, and that ain't easy. And IQ, here's where I get scared about this and wonder about this, and I have to ask you, but who better to ask about this than you? I understand that there are two factions in Islam. There are the political pragmatists, the ones running the country and the ones responsible for making everything move and flow. And then you have your Wahhabists and you have the fundamentalists. And is it realistic that Trump can weave an economic deal to entangle all of the countries, including Israel and the United States, into an economic sphere so that we really will work together and jihad will basically, well, what happens to jihad? Does it just die under its own weight? I mean, it has
No, it will not die. Jihad will not die.
Then
Jihad cannot, for as long as Islam
how is this peace plan going to work?
Okay. First of all, nothing will happen in a peaceful atmosphere unless the regime in Iran is finished. Only when the regime in Iran is exterminated will the possibility of a peace in the Middle East can occur.
Well,
and if it doesn't matter. There will be stability. Look, there is so-called a peace agreement between Israel and Egypt and Israel and Jordan. They're not peace. It's a hudna. In Arabic language, hudna means a cessation of hostilities. The minute they want to start the war, they will do it in a microsecond. Okay? You can't have a peace agreement with a Muslim country. You can't have any agreement with a Muslim country.
Well,
you can't have any agreement with any Muslim. Anything signed with a Muslim is not worth the paper it's written on.
What about the Abraham Accords?
At the moment, the Abraham Accord has been working for both sides beautifully. So as long as both sides are winning or both sides are gaining out of it, why not? Look at the Lebanese. Look at the Lebanese. They have been under Islamic rule, under Hezbollah, for the last, since 2000, what was it? Since 1990, 1975 or 76. Hezbollah took over the south of Lebanon. Yeah. They created a government, an illegal government, and took over the land. They took over the government. And yet they are the ones who are now not willing to make peace with Israel. The other Lebanese factions want to make peace. There was never a problem between Israel and Lebanon. Never, not once.
Right.
Okay? It's only because of Hezbollah. It's only because of the Houthis in the Yemen. It's only because of Assad, it used to be in Syria. All of them are connected to one unit.
If we take away Iran, I mean, literally, just take them off the table. If we take away Hezbollah,
the minute you take away,
and Hamas, well, Hamas is
all of them will go the minute you take them away.
Well, what I'm asking is this Abraham Accords, can Trump thread the needle, as they say, with all these different countries and have them happier than pigs in shit to be part of this incredible economic juggernaut that they can all have as long as they stop killing each other?
Okay.
I mean,
you ask the question? Yes, he can.
Forget about jihad if it's putting enough money in their pockets.
He can do it only if the regime in Iran is finished. Yeah. Not before.
Uh-huh. But even then, they're not the only source of jihad.
Right? Yeah, wait, step, Roger, take it step at a step, all right? Take it step at a time. You want to do a whole lot? Forget it. You can't do it all. There are 57 Muslim majority states. If 7 of them, the top people, make an Abrahamic agreement, all the other 50 are useless. They are insignificant, actually.
Right.
So take it step by step.
All right, so you're
if Saudi Arabia joins the Abraham Accord, you've got a winner, 100% winner for everybody. Everybody will gain. You don't have war, everybody will gain. You gain from not only technology, but from irrigation, from trade, from science and technology. Everybody gains out of it. War, there's only the destruction.
You know what I worry about, though, also, IQ? Let me have your take on this then. I'm not thrilled about the relationship, this warm relationship with Turkey. And I don't like Erdogan a bit. I don't trust him. And it's like I really have to, wonder about the friendships with some of these people.
Okay, what are you going to do? First
I
of
don't know.
all,
I don't mean to come out of left
Turkey
field
is
with
part
that,
of
but
NATO.
right. Well, that to me enough is
Well,
strange.
don't
But go
say
ahead.
why. It was a part of NATO because of the Soviet Union. So what do you mean why? America
I
have
didn't say
missiles
no.
there.
I didn't say why. I just said, yeah, I know. I've never really been crazy about them being part of NATO.
Okay, whether you're crazy, not crazy, it was at the time they needed Turkey to counter the Soviet Union. We have no Soviet Union.
Right, right,
They
right.
don't need Turkey. But the European Union will not allow Trump to do anything about it because they are the piece of shit. The European Union leaders, they are the one.
You don't have a bleeper, Jiggy?
No,
I love it. I love
no,
it.
we should not have a bleeper. If a piece of garbage of a subhuman, of a Muslim called Piker can say 9/11 is deserving, don't tell me bleep me. Don't you dare bleep me.
Yeah, it's amazing the radicalism that's
They are not
receiving
radical.
such
Again,
time.
Roger, please. Again, you're destroying your argument. There is no such thing as a radical Muslim. How many times do I have to teach you? Islam is radical. So did you ever hear of a radical Nazi? Why not? Did you ever hear of a radical communist? Why not? Did you ever hear of a militant Nazi or an extremist Nazi? Never. Why? Why only with Islam? Because you're stupid, not you personally, but the people who use these terms are utterly stupid. They don't
Right.
understand.
And I was really thinking in terms of him being a radical person.
No,
I know exactly what you're
you have
saying.
to use the
Jiggy,
term.
no,
You have
I
to use
keep,
the
don't get
correct term.
frustrated because I have this same argument on your side, trying to explain to people about all Muslims
Okay,
is a good
okay.
can a good Muslim be a good American?
So
And the
you
answer is
what you
no.
should say, they are Sharia compliant. I told you
I
that.
do, but it's
That's it. That's it. That's it.
very
Don't
difficult
use
for them to
radical. The
understand it.
minute you use radical, you lost the argument.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying if you're going to qualify it, just say Sharia compliant as opposed to radical. I agree with that.
You can call them fundamentalists or Sharia compliant.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
radical. ISIS is the perfect representation of Islam. They tell us, the news media tell us they're the extremists. They're not the bloody extremists, you stupid animals.
Right.
They are the perfect representation of Islam. Al
Yes.
Qaeda is what do you call moderate compared to ISIS. ISIS follows the Sharia letter by letter and dot by dot. Literally, letter by letter and dot by dot.
Yeah.
That's called fundamentalism.
And the media doesn't change their verbiage very much either. They're not, it's still migrants. You never hear the word Muslims at all when they're talking about
But you don't have to
migrant
repeat it.
crisis.
Correct, but you don't have to repeat it. I don't repeat it. I never repeat it. I never call them migrants. Those piece of shit. I call them invaders.
Yeah.
I don't call them
Well,
migrants. They're not
look,
migrants.
the problem I see is that the general public is not a hell of a lot closer to understanding the situation than they were 3, 5, 10 years ago.
Because
20, really, they really haven't
because
improved.
the media and academia
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
not telling them the truth. That's why.
The
So
only difference.
we have James and Roger and IQ trying
Yeah.
to educate 300 million people. It's,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable.
The only difference I see is a lot of creative stuff on Facebook, but of course, they have it for the other side too. It's really become kind of a chat storm to make Jiggy happy. But yeah, folks, these are troubling times, folks. So all kidding aside, we've got to keep the Republicans in because they at least give us a chance because they're at least not electing the enemy. They're electing Abdul, I fool you, you fool.
They
They're
haven't
electing
elected
these people.
anybody. Wait a minute,
And
Roger,
and, and,
Roger,
when,
Roger,
and when
Roger.
Trump calls them terrorists and they got all tiffed out about that, well, the fact of the matter is they are. Because if they're cultural terrorists, as a friend of mine pointed out, they're terrorists. They're cultural terrorists, violent terrorists, you're nonviolent terrorists, a jihadist rather. A jihadist is a jihadist.
They haven't got into power yet, so let's calm down, all right? And who is electing them? The Democratic Party. Good luck to them.
Exactly.
You should be really very happy that the Democrats are supporting pieces of garbage like this. You should be very happy. Why? Because in any kind of display in advertising, you put Al Sayed on left-hand side, and you have the other piece of God, Zahran,
Right.
and Al Hassan, and then on the right-hand side, you show them what the Republicans are doing. There's no comparison between the two. There's no contest.
And
There's
I
no
wish they
contest.
would show it side by side in videos.
They have
Like
to
I
do
said,
that. That's
they
the
don't
only
seem to
way they
have
will
much.
ever win. If
They don't have
do that, they
creative
will not
people
win.
working for them, Jiggy. I mean, it should be so easy. If you put a side by side, ladies and gentlemen, of the cabinet that Biden had, Rachel Levine. I don't know if you know offhand what. Well, that was that was a transgender, and that was the head of. That's who preceded JFK Jr., RFK Jr. What are you kidding me? And they scream and hoot and holler about RFK Jr. You should take a look at Rachel Levine and look. I don't care what he or she looks like, but her main agenda was to turn the HHS into more DEI and more transgender. That was their agenda, the transgender agenda. So there you go. And that's just one person. How about the guy, that blonde kid with the high red heels and the thick red lipstick, and he was arrested for some type of petty larceny or something, whatever the hell it was. I mean, this was his cabinet. These are people that were in his cabinet. A total joke. And of course, Zohar Mandani, oh goodness, they're going to have to fumigate that place after he leaves. The terrorists he has visiting there on a regular basis, like Siraj Wahaj. Unbelievable. Pinch me. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Life is but a dream. I mean, that's really what it feels like, Jiggy.
Let us know how you really feel, Roger. that's the big question.
Well, we lost our playoff game today too.
Oh, so you're still doing softball?
Yes, yes.
That's good. That's good. That's very good.
Yeah, but it's giving me the guilt complex because I'm not doing the show. And I don't know that the show would have made any difference, but that's not a good excuse for that. You know what I mean? But it's really kind of driven me nuts, especially the way everything has seemed to have gone lately. But I'm still optimistic. But to track this on a daily basis is very masochistic. You know,
James, I'm going to propose not solution, an explanation
Yes.
of what's happening with the new generation, so-called, is it Generation Z, X, Y, Z? I don't know which one it is. Anyway, notice something. Most of them are in their 20s and 30s, living with their parents. Why are they living with their parents? They can't afford to pay rent. They can't afford to be on their own. They graduated school, universities, and got degrees, and they are miserable. They are unhappy. They are unattached. Most of these people who are literally supporting Mamdani and the Muslims are men and women in their 30s, well educated, but completely unattached to each other. They have no wives, they have no husbands, they have no boyfriends, they have no girlfriends. And without children, they have no investment in the future. That's why they don't care. That's exactly why they don't care. They have no investment, physical, financial, because they are staying with their parents, and they have no children and grandchildren to worry about. So they don't give a damn what happens in the future generation. That's what's happening. That's why we're calling it suicidal empathy. That's exactly what it is. So who do they support? The Muslims. They don't realize that the Muslims will destroy them no matter what. They don't realize that because they don't know that. And they're not willing to study it or even learn about it. What do you think?
Well, one thing that comes to my mind again is that birthright thing, the birth rate thing. And, you know, I'm just really surprised and disappointed with women. You know how you'll always hear reproductive rights, reproductive rights. And that's fine and dandy, but has anyone ever presented back to them? That's fine. You should have reproductive rights. But do you also believe that there should also be some reproductive responsibility?
No.
What is your function in society? What are you giving society? Because what we need are babies.
Correct. But they don't want to have babies. They want to
Oh,
abort them.
then what are they giving to society? So they're just going to suck?
But I just explained it to you. They are deranged. They don't want to face reality.
Well, then they need to be told, at least told.
Oh, who's going to
People
tell
are
them?
babies.
Who's
And
going to tell
that's
them?
what I love about that
Roger
Trump
Homefield?
account. I love that Trump account. No, they at least have to be confronted. Don't tell me reproductive rights. What about reproductive responsibility? You know, it's like it's not like everybody has to have a child, but really, that's your function in society, isn't it? Doesn't mean you should never think about anything else, but by and large, not everyone all the time. But I mean, isn't it obviously that's the way it is?
No.
And
If it was obvious, they would have done it, but it's not obvious to them.
well, I think they don't care. They don't care if our
But I
culture
just
dies
explained
out.
it to you. I told you that why they don't care.
Yeah.
They're unattached. They have no love. They're miserable. They live in the dungeon with their grandparents or parents. They have nothing to look forward to. Honestly, they have nothing to look forward to.
They live in a dungeon. That is amazing.
I had to say that.
So what is the status? Does anyone, because I don't really know the up-to-date status. It's up and down and up as far as that Muslim city. I think, wasn't it called Epic City in Texas? Is it on again or off again?
They have allowed it. They have permitted it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, have they outlawed Sharia law in Texas? They
cannot. They are not willing to outlaw Sharia. That's the whole bloody point. You have to outlaw Sharia, but they're not
I thought
willing.
that's what government. Oh, no. He was going to outlaw the Muslim Brotherhood. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Muslim Brotherhood and
Not the
CAIR.
same thing. Yeah.
I know it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
It would be a one problem solve all if he would outlaw Sharia law. That's why nobody wants to do it. God forbid it would solve the problem. It's so obvious. Oh, IQ.
This is what I've got a friend of mine who told me all the time, don't use the word obvious. Maybe it's obvious to you, but to most people, it's not obvious because they're too stupid to understand it.
It just saddens me, you know. I'm not throwing away the towel. I'll still be optimistic. I'll still optimistic. Let's win this war. Let's win the election, and then we have an incredible bench for 28 as far as like Rubio. And personally, I like Rubio. I'd like to see Brandon Gill as vice president personally. And that would just truly make America great. But it really needs to be discussed again, IQ, and people don't talk about it that much about the values, to discuss the values, to discuss right and wrong. And it's like we've gotten pulled into such a fist fight with them, like in Minnesota and everyone. They've made everything so contentious that It's really taken the overall vision of America off the table of what like used to be the vision of what we used to see America as, and a lot of what we saw America as with through those uh, very wholesome, sweet TV shows that showed America how we should be. You know, mom and dad and taking care of the kids the best they could. Scrape their ankle, their knee, they cry, they fall off the bike, they have a fist fight. Everybody knew what was right and wrong. There was no problem with that. And now there's just so much nastiness and evil and hate thrown around. And the hate that's being thrown around is being thrown by all the people that were screaming, stop the hate, stop the hate.
You know where it started? Do you know where it started, this hate? Obama.
Yeah. Oh, no,
Well,
absolutely.
but it's very important to put the date. Obama was the start of all the division and hatred in America.
Yeah.
Obama.
That whole beer summit crap. He really set this country up.
Beer summit.
Oh, he was so contrived. He knew exactly what the hell he was doing with everything. And he didn't wait very long either. And then when they had the riots in Ferguson, Missouri, IQ, him and Eric Holder float out to the riot. You know what he tells the rioters? Quote, stay the course, close quote.
So why are you surprised?
Huh?
Why are you surprised? I just gave you in a microsecond exactly who the source was.
Do I see Daniel Greenfield?
Yes,
pop
indeed.
on the
Wow.
Daniel Greenfield. How are you?
Daniel,
We are honored.
great stuff. And you're one of the few things that have come. You're one of the few things that are going to shut me up. I want to hear you talk, Daniel. I'm Roger.
Let's not
Homefield.
expect
I'm
too
on the
much
line,
here.
too.
We have got a great guest with us today. He joins us here on the old Zoom. We've got Daniel Greenfield with us, of course, IQ Al Rizzoli, and the great Roger Homefield. Daniel, you have some incredible projects. You're just an amazing individual. You are the original ferret in the Jello fight, my friend, and I appreciate you joining us today. So Daniel, we've been talking about all sorts of different things with Islam and some of the Muslims and Sharia law, and Roger and IQ were talking about this town in Texas that apparently is been set up by the Muslims. You're an expert on pretty much everything under the sun. So where do you want to start us out here, Daniel?
Well, we've got a duality of things going on here. On the one hand, we have these Islamists coming in and are taking over American cities like New York City with Zon Mamdani. They're taking over states like with Michigan, and you've got Abdul Sayed, who's now the Democratic nominee, not because he won the overall vote, but because he won 94% of the Muslim vote. He actually lost the overall vote if you discount the Muslim vote. So you've got this kind of takeover going on. On the other hand, they're very much intent on setting up their own separate communities, their own separate little no-go zones, whether it's Islamburg a while back. There was another state that was another community that was busted a while back, again, for involvement in terrorism. And you've got EPIC and some other projects in Texas that they're trying to create these little separate enclaves where they're using backdoor rules and tricks to make sure that only Muslims are going to live there, which is fundamentally un-American and really gets to the heart of this whole question with Islam. These people are coming here to live with us, or they're just coming here to conquer and create their own society here. Whether it's by cannibalizing ours and taking it over, or whether it's by creating their own compounds within.
Roger, go ahead. I know you got some questions for
Daniel, a couple months ago, I had some kind of high hopes that the old West, not the old Wild West, but the Western civilization would score a victory by Trump taking out the regime in Iran, liberating the people of Iran. They would be happy and celebrate and become Persia and put on their skirts and nylon stockings and say, God bless America. And that would kind of stop the losing streak of Western civilization to what seems to be, the caliphate is just right on course from the perspective that I'm looking at it at, and now I'm just kind of worried as far as how things are really going with that. To me, it was an opportunity. I hope that opportunity is still there, and I hope that is what transpires. But
It's definitely a bad situation, Daniel. What kind of comments do you have here on this Iran thing?
I mean, it's completely reasonable to be hopeful. On the other hand, there's a basic problem, which is that we've forgotten how to fight wars. The same American military that functioned in World War II, that functioned in the Korean War, or for that matter, even the Vietnam War would have known how to settle this. We do these kinds of, we're not really trying to win the war, we're just trying to kind of send a message. We're going to bomb some targets, then we're not going to bomb other targets. The Israelis, love them or hate them, had a very direct approach to the problem. Take out the heads of the regime. We kind of went along with that a bit of the way, and then we want to negotiate with the succeeding regime. And the reality is the succeeding regime is certainly not going to be any more friendly or any more moderate, any more pro-American than the old Death to America regime. It's just the Death to America 2 regime. So, if you're going to engage in bombing campaigns, you need to have a very specific sense of what you want to accomplish. We wanted to take out Iran's nuclear program. Much of that is done. That's something we can accomplish. But regime change is, it's an ambitious goal. You're not just going to accomplish that by taking out some military targets. You actually have to go after the regime step by step, piece by piece. It's something we could do, but we're not actually doing. Instead, we're really replaying the failed campaign against the Houthis in Yemen, where, we take out some assets, we take out some satellites, we take out some assets on the ground, and we say, okay, now behave yourself, or no, next time we're going to wipe out your entire civilization. And the fourth or fifth time you say this, it's absolutely non-serious. And we're doing a lot of, interceptors. We're wasting a lot of missiles on this program instead of actually either deciding we're going to go ahead, we're going to smash their shipping, we're going to smash their regime, which we're not doing. And we still really no signs of meaningfully being prepared to do that. I mean, Iran is able to still operate shipping, which is obviously absurd because on the one hand, they're able to shut down shipping for everybody else. On the other hand, we're not willing to actually take out their shipping. We're not willing to take out the harbors. We're not willing to take out the airports. So we're absolutely not serious about this. We're assuming that we are going to engage in a pressure campaign against people who are absolutely not going to be moved by pressure campaigns. And once they very clearly saw that we're not going to significantly escalate this, they decided to do the one thing they could do, which is take something hostage. It's for something they're very good at doing. Take airports hostage, take airways hostage, take shipping lanes hostage. And they've done that. They've taken a weak hand, they've turned into a strong one because they see we're not going to do anything serious about them. So we need to fundamentally reevaluate how we do this and what our objectives are and how we set out to accomplish them. Because treating Iran like a state using these same tools of statecraft, we're going to create a pressure campaign. We're going to do sanctions. We're going to take out some targets to show that we're stronger. None of this works against terrorists, or maybe works against other countries. And even then, the track record against that for that stuff has been very spotty. Iraq, North Korea, whatever, Russia. None of the stuff has worked all that well. But certainly when we're dealing with a terrorist group, which is what Iran is, and we kind of forgot that in the last 50 years or so, it's a terrorist group that seized control of a country. None of the stuff is going to work, and we have to either decide what we're willing to do, what we want to do, and what we're not going to do.
could their economy collapse, Daniel? Could we catch a break that way? Is it possible that they were just waiting and they will collapse under their own weight economically?
I mean, they've been collapsing for a while. Their economy is a disaster. But remember, it's kind of like a mafia. The elite, the IRGC, which is their terrorist hub, controls much of the economic activity. It's certainly hurting them, but it's not going to just make them stop. We've had this conversation with Cuba forever. Cuba is now once again on the verge of collapse. But I have to remind people, Cuba has been on the verge of collapse now for 30, 40 years. We've heard this over and over again. When you have a leadership that is going to go ahead and say, okay, our economy has collapsed, there's no food, there's nothing, we should just step down and let better people take over. Well, those are probably not the people we should really be that worried about anyway. The people we're worried about, the people who say, okay, the economy has collapsed, there's no money for anything, there's no electricity, there's no food. It's somebody else's problem. We're just going to kill more people and stay in power that way. And that's really the kinds of people we're dealing with, whether it's the communist world, North Korea, Cuba, and so on and so forth, or whether it's the Muslim terrorist world, which is, Iran. So the assumption that we're going to use sanctions, this is very 90s Clinton stuff. It assumed sanctions were the solution to everything. In fact, I'm not even sure there's one single time that sanctions have actually worked. I've asked people to tell me, and they kind of, maybe sort of in Myanmar, not even really then. South Africa, maybe that's the one time sanctions perhaps worked, and even then it's debatable. And that was a regime that was basically very fundamentally different than the ones we're dealing with. It had democratic elections. It wanted most of the same stuff we wanted. It was European derived. The kinds of regimes we're dealing with, sanctions are not going to take them down.
Militarily, how could America and Israel win the war?
Bottom line is we're dealing with a terrorist group that's controlled the country. Take out the terrorists, much
But
as
I
we
mean,
did
land.
with.
How you're saying, that we may not be willing to do what it take. What would it take? Would it take a ground invasion? I mean, I'm just curious. I'd love to
I
hear
don't think
your
we
take
should
on it.
pursue a ground invasion. I think that would be unwise. That said, if we want to do bombing campaigns, what the Israelis did by taking out leaderships of various terrorist groups
Mhm.
is very much a sign we have a lot of the intel to take out these people. We know where they live, we know where they operate, and their ability to control the country. I have to emphasize this, they don't even control much of the country. They do have their assets, which is Bashji militias. They have the RGC itself. They have a certain amount of manpower, thousands of people who are willing to go out in the street and kill anyone who protests against them. And that's the source of their power at this point. It's not really military superiority. So one option is to simply take out the regime, take out the top people. And I don't mean the political people, those are puppets, those are meaningless. I
Mhm.
mean the actual RGC and Bashir, the people they bring out into the streets when there's a protest. And next time there's a protest, if they don't have the people to go out in the streets and shut that protest down, the regime effectively falls. It ceases to be relevant. That's one option. A second option is to simply take out a lot of their naval and military assets that they've been using. We have not actually been significantly proactive in doing that. We have the option to take their oil. President Trump has discussed that in the past. We have the option of preventing them from shipping oil. Those are all things we could do. We are still not doing those things. We could prevent them from selling oil to China, which is, the source of much of their finances. And we're not really doing any of those things. We're just issuing threats. We're doing some light bombing raids. We're wasting a lot of firepower, but we're not really getting much bang for that buck. And those are all options if we were serious about this.
But why? Why do you think? I mean, why is that, Daniel?
Bottom line is we've forgotten how to fight wars. It's been a long time since we've actually fought a war. What we've been doing for a while is counterinsurgency, which
Mhm.
is fine, but it's not really sufficient in this case. When it comes to any kind of bombing, well, we think in terms of limited strikes. That's what we've been doing for quite a while now. Remember when we had at the beginning of the Iraq War, and I'm not saying the Iraq War was a good idea, but at the beginning of the Iraq War, we had this, we're going to do shock and awe. We're going to really smash them. And
Mhm.
it turned out to be a bait and switch. We didn't actually do shock and awe. We haven't done shock and awe, really. We haven't done shock and awe, serious sustained bombings meant to actually destroy targets for a long, long time, probably since Vietnam. So it's something we're completely out of practice to the point that there's nobody in the military command that even seems to understand the concept. The second is we can do what the Israelis are kind of doing, which is narrow strikes, taking out people who are at the top of the regime, then taking out the people below them, the people below them. And the Israelis are reasonably good at it. We've kind of gone along with it, but I think our military is not that comfortable doing it. They're not really that fond of the idea. They want really the kind of war that they're used to fighting, which is what people in the military do. They want to fight the war that they fought before. It's like all of us. We know what's in our particular wheelhouse. We know we've been trained to do. We know how things have gone. And this has been a major problem in the past because in World War II, we came in and they wanted to refight World War I, which was completely irrelevant at that point. And we got to the Korea War and they thought, it could be kind of like World War II, and then it was Vietnam, and we could be kind of like Korea. And none of those things really properly applied at that point. And we've had this in American history going back to the Civil War, and where people were thinking about, well, it's going to be kind of like the War of 1812. So we have a military that is where the command staff really has spent a lot of time wasting their time. They've been trying to win hearts and minds in Afghanistan and Iraq. They've been really used to engaging in these kinds of very limited conflicts. And their idea is the military really shouldn't fight. The military is just establishing ground for the politicals. And the politicals are going to come in, they're going to negotiate an end to the conflict. It was so absurd, really, that during Libya, and again, I think Libya was a disaster, but during Libya, the military was there trying to do de-escalation. The military has been trying to do de-escalation with China forever, which is surreal to the point of verging on treason, because you have top American military commanders who call their Chinese opposite numbers and okay, this is what we're doing. We want to avoid any kind of escalation. This is kind of stupid Cold War brain rot stuff, where people in the military decide that they're politicians, actually, and that their goal is to prevent any kind of escalation. And if you want to win a war, you might want to do this crazy thing called escalation. You don't always have to escalate. That shouldn't just be your default mode, but you need to be able to know how to do that. Nobody in the military seems to know how to escalate anymore. They just know how to de-escalate.
Daniel, in the list of items that you mentioned on how to finish the regime, you missed one thing. There are 30 million boots on the ground in Iran. 30 million. They are the young men who are willing to die to overthrow the regime. All they lack is weapons. What I suggested on numerous times on this subject, on this program, America and Israel control the airspace. They can organize a drop zone with the resistance. Give them tens of thousands of pistols, machine guns, bazookas, RPGs with the ammunition. You can use them. 30 million people are there. We don't need boots on the ground. As you said, it will be a disaster. There's no reason. But you already have them there. And nobody is thinking outside the box. Nobody is thinking outside. Why? Why are they not thinking outside the box? They control the airspace.
No, it's a very good
Nothing
point.
moves on the face of Iran that the satellite cannot touch.
That's a very good point. The Israelis supposedly had plans in that regard. DC shut it down. And again, it's because we're still stuck in this kind of antiquated idea where we don't want to create chaos. And we think, if we're going to drop weapons, we're going to create chaos. And there's a point to that. You don't want weapons going into the wrong hands. But at the same time...
What wrong hands? Sorry, with all due respect, what wrong hands? What are we discussing?
I'm agreeing with you. I'm not arguing with you. I'm agreeing with you.
No. I'm not arguing with you either. All I'm saying is, what wrong hands? The IRGC is the wrong hand.
I agree.
You're dropping weapons with people who will destroy them. Yeah. It will be a bloodbath.
So there's concerns about weapons floating around the region. I understand those concerns at the moment after the Arab Spring and all the stuff we did, the disaster in Syria. I think there's tons of weapons already floating around the region. And there's a third factor, which is Erdogan in Turkey really does not want Kurds or other people he opposes getting their hands on weapons. So that got vetoed by Turkey, got vetoed by other players in the region, unfortunately. Again, I think we should not be bound to some of these people, particularly Turkey, which is not an ally of the United States. It's an Islamist enemy.
Yeah,
but don't compare the Iranians to the Arabs, please. They are not the same. Not like
I agree. I was not comparing them. I'm just explaining the thinking
really,
in DC
because
that's going on there.
When you said the Arab Spring, we're not discussing the same people.
Believe me, I know that, but you're dealing with people in DC. They don't necessarily have a good sense of the difference between Persians and Arabs. They don't understand the cultures there. I agree.
I agree. Yeah.
I'm disappointed, Daniel, that DC historically has always held Israel back. We figured this would be different now, but here we go again. That's kind of what it feels like. I mean, it's like, this is like deja vu all over again, is it not? I mean, Israel is why don't they just unleash Israel, at least take out the regime? Look, if they know where the regime is, do they also know where that Republican Guard is, Daniel?
I mean, the officer corps, we can track where these people are. We know where these people are. We can get to them. We're choosing not to do it. And a big part of the problem here was this false idea that we went into this conflict with, which was, we take out some of the regime, then we negotiate with the guys who are there, and then we have a settlement and a deal. And we've been tricked into this by Pakistan and Qatar, which are incidentally close allies of Iran. They've tricked us into the idea that a deal is possible. And every time we try for a deal, it is absolutely impossible because the regime is never going to make a deal with us. Indeed, the regime at this point sees an opportunity to bring the Democrats, who they're in alliance with, to power, which of course is, again, a complete disaster. So the more we're wired into this idea and this sunk cost fallacy that we can make a deal with the regime, the more we keep humiliating ourselves. And we should have learned a lesson from the Biden administration. The Biden administration tried to get right back into the Iran deal. They were offering the regime everything, yet the regime insisted on humiliating them, degrading them, and refusing to actually give them a deal. And that's how they treated the Biden administration. So what are they thinking is going to happen with the Trump administration after the campaign? I mean, it's a no-brainer.
I mean, do you really think that Trump is going to like? I mean, he can't be stupid. I mean, he. Do you think the fact that maybe he just really doesn't want to kill a lot of people is this factoring in? Because I had this thought several weeks ago, and I said, I think Trump doesn't want to put his head to the pillow, knowing that he made a decision and he's responsible for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people that are dead. Is this? Is he like, look, I like Trump, but I mean, I'm just kind of wondering, I'm getting a little nervous with what's going on over there. And I'm wondering if he's really like a big dove.
He's not a dove. You have to understand, Trump has good gut instincts. The problem, though, is everybody's a captive of their experience, and Trump's experience is making deals. He's made deals all over the Middle
Right.
East. He thinks that as a real estate guy, he still thinks that you can make a deal with anybody. We had this with North Korea in his previous term. He kept courting Kim Jong-un over and over again, and nothing actually came of it because, some people you can't actually make a deal with. And I don't think he genuinely understands that. Even if he intellectually understands it, gut-wise, he's gone into these rooms, he's done so many deals with so many. He doesn't really understand that he's dealing with people you can't actually make a deal with. But I think he's being forced to recognize that more and more.
IQ, forgive me, but I've got to ask Daniel this question because we were talking about it before you came on. The fact that
Go ahead, go
Trump,
ahead.
he's trying to thread the needle and make an economic entanglement with all these Muslim countries. And I said to IQ, but is that going to overcome jihad and the caliphate? Is that going to are they going to forget about that just because they're making good money? So I really want to throw that at you because once again, he's trying to make a deal and he'll be a genius if he can have the whole thing land on the ground where now there's peace in the Mideast and there's all these conglomerates and associations with the Muslim countries and Israel all working together. I'll shut up.
Well, I think this is a bigger problem. It's much bigger than Trump or DC or anything like that. It really explains why, we have the crises we deal with Islamic infiltration in America and in
Right.
general mass migration because Americans, we're very nice people. We generally don't think that everybody else thinks like us, that they want the things that we do. We've heard this so many times about mass migration. They're here for the American dream. Maybe, but their dream can be very different than our dream. Their dream can be, I'm going to steal billions of dollars through the healthcare system. I'm
Right.
going to have three wives and I'm going to run this brothel. It can be or I'm going
The
to,
American dream,
fly
yeah.
planes into the World Trade Center. It can be an American dream, but it's not the dream that Americans have because these cultures are different. Americans don't really understand cultural differences. We did have this melting pot at one point. It's kind of coming apart, but still, generally, Americans think that most people want what we want. They want, make some money, have a nice house, start a family, get our kids through college, all the stuff. And there's a whole lot of people in the world who don't want those things, who want something very different. And we don't know how to deal with that. Most Americans don't know how to deal with that. Trump, like most presidents, like every president, frankly, in quite a while, does not really understand how to deal with that. And to deal with that, you have to understand there are people who actually want very different things. They don't just want, we have economic development. We've done this so many times. We're going to bring economic development to Afghanistan. We're going to dig wells for them. We're going to send their kids to college. We're going to win their hearts and minds because really they want the same things. I remember, they put on the musical or they put on a production, 1776 in Iraq to teach them about the founding fathers and democracy because the thinking is, they want the same basic things that we do. And then, they certainly didn't want the same basic things that we did in Iraq or Afghanistan. And when we bring them to America, to places like Michigan, it turns out they don't want the same basic things that we do either. They want a whole bunch of different things. I mean, sure, they'll take the money, but that's not really their be all end all. Because these people actually do believe in something. They do believe in something bigger, whether it's communism, whether it's Islamic jihad. They believe in something bigger than just let's make a bunch of money. And when we treat these people as if, they just want a bunch of money, we're selling them short. We're treating ourselves like idiots in the process because we've forgotten that there is something bigger than that. And some of us, unfortunately, have forgotten that. And that's
You
really
know,
at the core of our policy problems. We've forgotten who we are beyond just, let's have a good life, and which is the counter argument that we made to the Soviet Union for so many years. They're communists. They don't want you to have a good life. We've got stuff in our supermarkets, and that's all great. It's all very nice. But we also stand for something more than that, and we've forgotten that. And in the process, we've also forgotten that those people stand for something more than that, and that they actually are willing to kill us. They're willing, certainly, to lie to us to achieve those goals.
For 1400 years, the European mind hasn't accepted that under Sharia, no Muslim can be a loyal citizen among kuffar. And
Yes.
under Sharia, Islam cannot coexist in peace and harmony with any other group. It's that simple. 1400 years has been proving it, and our leaders are dumb.
Yeah, you have to get to the basic point. What is Islam? And we think, it's like Judaism or Christianity or, it's some religion. It's a system of political power. Islam is, there's no separation between mosque and state. The mosque is the state. Erdogan in Turkey back in the day said, the mosques are barracks, the faithful are soldiers. This is the essence of Islam. Essence of Islam is to take power and impose Islamic law on everybody. This is not just like some sort of side thing or something that a few extremists in a cave somewhere believe. This is Islam. This is what they live for. This is what they die for. They believe that this is what Allah put them on earth to do. If they fail doing it, but they're trying to do this, Allah will give them 72 virgins or whatever. The essential idea is that this is what the purpose of Islam is. And we do not accept that. We do not understand that.
True.
Daniel,
The sixth pillar of Islam, the sixth pillar of Islam, in chapter 2, Al-Baqarah, verse 216 is jihad.
Mm-hmm.
The jihad, in that verse, it says, jihad is mandated upon you even if you don't like it.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like it.
Yeah.
So jihad is mandated, and it's mandated forever.
Yeah.
Well,
it's not something you do on the weekend. It's not something you do part-time. Islam is not just something you do personally. It's not a personal religion. It is the collective imperative of all Muslims. It's the Ummah.
Correct.
Look, you two are two of the best writers in the world, especially on this subject. And I do love your articles, Daniel and IQ, not without saying. I can only imagine how frustrating, because you're writing these wonderful articles every week. And it's kind of like Joe Public still doesn't know Shat from Shinola. It seems to be, and neither does Congress. And so, like, if a congressman makes a statement like, Islam is existential, is a threat to the United States of America, everybody jumps on him and how can you say such an awful thing when he simply said simple truth? How frustrating is that for you guys? And what do you have to do to get the word out? Daniel.
Well, I got into this after September 11th. I was in downtown Manhattan at the time, and it's been a long road. We're now coming up on the 25th anniversary. Unfortunately, I was a kid then. I am a bit less of a kid now. And it is definitely frustrating, but I have to remember it's not a fault fundamentally of the American people. It's the fact that we're saturated with lies. First was the mainstream media. Now so much of social media exists to spread these same lies over and over again. We've seen that as easy to corrupt as the media was. Social media is even worse. I mean, you've got Tucker Carlson and all these people now suddenly who are in love with Islam and busy telling you how great and fantastic Islam is. So the American people are being lied. They're being lied by a sustained conspiracy, by especially their leaders, by academia. And a lot of this is coming from the outside. So, we're the underdogs. We're battling to get this point through. But at the same time, there is a narrow window after each Islamic terrorist attack to try and wake people up. And more people are waking up. Unfortunately, of course, it is really hard to get through this bubble that's been erected around us, whether it's the political bubble, the social media bubble, the media bubble in general. And we keep pushing through this. We keep pushing through this. It's an ongoing dynamic struggle.
Sure is an ongoing struggle. I'm just surprised at the milquetoast response of the American public since 9/11. I mean, the first response was, we don't want to have a backlash. And, Bush came out holding hands with the imams, telling us that, they were loyal Americans and this and that. And we sucked it up anyway. That's exactly what everybody wanted to hear. But America still does not get it, Daniel, that was a bold-faced lie. They are not loyal to the United States of America. And I think if Americans would have understood that at that time after 9/11, I think they would have gotten Islam out of America and done something about Sharia law and done something about these mosques and done something about it and say, no, we're not going to put up with this. You've been doing this here. Look what you've done to Europe. Boom. Sharia law is illegal. And that's it. Anyway, what about that, Daniel? But now time has passed. 25 years have passed. So if you're 25, 26 years old, you don't even remember 9/11.
For that matter, we have a whole generation of voters that do not remember it, that have no context for this stuff. But you know what? It's happening all the time. Guys screaming Allah Akbar stabs two people in
Yeah.
Manhattan. And of course, we're told not to pay attention to that. We've had two terrorist attacks in New York City so far this since Mamdani took office. That's a
Right.
massive increase. It's the highest number since 2017. But of course, the media and social media is really driven to distract our attention, to divert our attention away from this, to invert everything. Right away after every terrorist attack, it's Muslims fear backlash.
Right.
Muslims are really worried about the backlash now. September 11th, according to Mamdani, really was about the story of how his auntie was not his auntie, was
Right.
afraid to ride the subway for a week after September 11th. And we of course we have to elect a guy like Mamdani to prove that we're not Islamophobes, so he can go around and call us
Right.
Islamophobes. We had to elect a guy named Barack Hussein Obama to prove we were not racist or Islamophobes. And the more we keep bending over backward for this, the more we keep showing we're the good guys. No, really, we're the good guys. The more they accuse us of everything. Mamdani, we elected him the first Muslim mayor of New York City, and of course his thing is going around saying America is such an Islamophobic country. I mean, where else but in such an Islamophobic country could we have taken the biggest city in the country, the one that experienced the worst Islamic terrorist attack, and handed it over to a Muslim? See what kind of horrible Islamophobes we are. We need to stop apologizing. We need to stop being offensive. We need to actually be pretty straightforward and blunt about what is going on here. And now the incredible thing about Abdul Muhammad al Sayed, nobody's calling him Abdul Rahim Muhammad al Sayed. You're not supposed to do that. That we're told is Islamophobic. It's Islamophobic to use his full name, which includes Muhammad. He ran his whole Democrat primary campaign with basically the Jews control Haley Stevens. He had no problem doing that. The media had no problem with him doing that. But you mentioned Muhammad and suddenly you're an Islamophobe. So we have to stop being afraid. We have to stop being worried about accusations of Islamophobia and all that stuff. Today they arrested Heidi Bear, who used to run the hate project, the hate map at the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Oh,
Back
the
in the day,
SPLC. Yeah,
2012, Heidi put me listed me as a hate group.
Oh,
He tried to shut down, defund the David Horowitz Freedom Center, which is our organization.
Right.
We are still here. I'm still here. She's under arrest. We've never stopped actually telling the truth about Islam. And I know there's a risk in that, but more people need to do that. Break the taboo, tell the truth.
Congratulations, Daniel. You're a freaking hero. I love you guys. And I love you guys at Front Page also.
Thank you.
You guys are heroes. And IQ, he wrote this book decades ago. He's been, fatwa. They would have loved to have gotten a hold of him, the things that he's been saying for all these years. And, I look at you heroes and I'm just so upset really with my fellow Americans that just seem to want to leave the heavy lifting to everybody else, or they just refuse to exist that it's actual reality. They're looking at everything like it's on a TV screen or something. I really don't know what it is. It's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. IQ doesn't get as excited as I do, but I just can't believe it, Daniel. I had the greatest childhood in the world, born in 1950. The Yankees. My whole life was the New York Yankees. Roger Maris hitting the 61st. Life was so simple, and Americans had it so great. And IQ, we were talking earlier, IQ, about how Americans now are very spoiled, and they are. Oh no, it's got to be now, this second, and all this and that. But they were very fortunate to be born at a certain time. Anyway, I'm just kind of horrified because America is the shining beacon. And without an America, Daniel, what kind of freedom will it be in the world?
As Ronald Reagan said, America is the last best hope of mankind for freedom, which is, of course, why Islamists have publicly talked about the importance of taking down America. And the major problem really is people are being driven crazy. They're being subjected to weapons of mass distraction. A lot of it's happening on social media. It's, there's a bunch of stuff that's calling for your attention every 4 seconds. And of course, there's another problem generally on the right in the conservative movement, which is that the left is very much about mobilize everybody. Whereas on the right, we were going to vote for the right politician. That's going to solve everything. And some of these people are good. Certainly a Trump supporter. But this idea that we can just vote for the right politician and then step back, it doesn't work because what the left does is it infiltrates, it takes over entire institutions like the government. So yeah, we now have good people at the head in the Pentagon. We have good people at the head in the State Department, but they're still filled with leftists, with people with Islamist sympathizers who are dedicated to undermining and wrecking America. So, you change some people at the top, that's still not enough. You need to clean house. And, they've been doing that to some degree, but it's still vastly insufficient. And you need mass participation. You need a mass participation of a mass movement in this. And that's something the left does very well. It's something that we are very hesitant to do, and that's a problem.
Weeks ago, I was talking to IQ and everybody about, why don't we have a terrorism czar? And somebody suggested that, well, Sebastian Gorka does that. I said, well, I didn't know that he was doing that. But I hear what you're saying. And I hear what he's saying is that the government's infiltrated. And that's why a lot of this stuff kind of doesn't go anywhere. Is that what I thought I heard you saying, Daniel?
To some degree. Certainly, we have a whole lot of corruption. We also now, at this point, have a whole generation of people in, say, the FBI, who are the products of this warped counterterrorism training that began happening around 2004, 2005, where they took Islam out entirely. And and by the time Obama came in, it was just man-caused disasters. And it's extremism.
Man-caused
It's not
disaster.
actually Islamic terrorism. So a lot of these people don't even know anything anymore. When they actually come through into the State Department or the FBI, they were given the whole wrong impression of distorted reality. And that's also a problem. But we are definitely infiltrated. But let's take Georgetown and Columbia. Those are two universities that have got some of the most Muslim money put into them. What does Columbia U and Georgetown have in common? Well, they're both feeder schools for the State Department, for the Foreign Service, for the CIA, all that stuff. Muslims invested a whole lot of money into shaping those. So we are dealing with people who think long term, who are pretty clever about it, and who infiltrate. And we can try to reform those institutions, or in some cases we can burn them down. One of the things I appreciate about the Trump administration is they've been burning some of these institutions down, which I absolutely welcome. I'm not sure a bunch of these institutions can be salvaged. So we had denazification in Germany after the war. There was talk of de-Baathification in Iraq and after the overthrow of Saddam Hussein. We need a de-wokification, whatever you want to call it, de-leftization, de-Islamization in America. We need to take some of these institutions, clean them out entirely as much as possible. If they can't be cleaned out, frankly, just destroy them, burn them to the ground, salt the earth, and start all over again.
Well, we need you in Congress, Daniel. And that's what kind of scares me is that we don't really have folks in DC that take this seriously. Or not enough of them. And then you have somebody that does say something strong and he gets attacked for being like he's from planet Pluto or something, like Senator Tuberville just saying things that are absolutely correct about Islam. And everybody's still acting shocked about it. Did anybody ever tap these people on the shoulder and say, by the way, what Tuberville just said, by the way, is absolutely factually all correct? Has anybody ever bothered to inform them of that before they all clutch their pearls and faint when somebody criticizes Islam?
And it's almost as bad on our side. We have very little support coming in from our side. The other side has the media that immediately swarms to attack and, of course, defend Islam. Does Fox News go ahead really and defend this? In many cases, they do not. Ex-Fox News people like Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly are actually playing for the other team at this point. And even though conservative sites, I'm not even going to name names, but you've seen it over and over again. They put up, at least at best, a kind of weak defense of these people. And, I was on Capitol Hill recently. I was talking to guys like Congressman Brandon Gill and Randy Fine, and they've been very open, telling the truth about Islam. They give very little support from the leadership,
Right.
it goes without saying. And, these people are targeted and they were taken down. We lost Andy in the Republican primary recently because the solar power people decided, they're going to really make sure of this. And how much support was there from the GOP? Very little. So the other side has a lot of support. Unfortunately, our side is very poor at this, and we don't make it nearly enough of a priority. A lot of the attention on Texas has been good because people are actually being told this needs to be a priority.
I'd love to see Rubio and Gill in 28. I mean, at least
Daniel,
Gill.
what I find offensive is that you have those bastard Muslims. By the way, I don't miss my words. Those bastard Muslims like Zohran, Pike, and Al Sayed speak about American slavery, and not a single person in the interviews ever says who sold these slaves to the slavers. Muslims, Arabs, for 500 years. 140 million black Africans were slaughtered, so that 14 million of them were sold to the Americans. Only 5% ended in the United States of America. How many Americans know that? Zero. Zero.
Right.
Maybe you do, but zero.
And who still has slaves
And yet
today, by the way?
Right.
Sorry?
Who still has slaves today? Saudi Arabia officially abolished slavery in 1962. 1962, and they still have slaves.
Correct.
Right. That's
Mauritania has them. Chad
Yeah.
has them until today.
Yeah.
And Sudan also. And Sudan also. And Nigeria.
course.
All of them.
Well, they always talk
And
about
Mali, the
nobody
Islamists
mentions it.
launched their campaign to bring back slavery, to our ex-wanted slaves again.
Well, Islam is the largest supremacy group in the history of the world, and it's the largest slave ownership group in the history of the world. Is that correct?
So no question about it. I mean, they're proud of it. Abdullah, the slave of Allah. We're
Abdullah,
all
fool you, you fool.
And of course, some of us get other slaves. Muslim men get to enslave non-Muslim women, some Muslim women. I mean, the whole idea of the hijab is that Muhammad is told that, have your women and girls cover themselves so that they should not be mistaken for roving slave girls and sexually assaulted. I mean, this is the origin of the hijab, which they tell us is so incredibly beautiful. Qatar, all these countries depend entirely on slave labor. Qatar is like 300,000 people, and the rest are just slaves that they bring in and wipe out. For the World Cup, thousands of slaves died building this stuff for them. So this Islam is entirely dependent on slavery. It is a barbaric, horrifyingly backward. I wouldn't even call it medieval. It's pre-medieval. It's something Stone Age. Into people who lucked out into getting oil. If they hadn't gotten the oil, they'd be sub-Saharan Africa.
Daniel, I have to go, unfortunately. It's a pleasure meeting you, but one thing I would like to end my conversation. For as long as Islam exists, slavery will never disappear, nor will hatred and war.
Of course.
That's it. That's the bottom line. I wish you well, and I hope we meet you again. Bye, Roger. Take care.
Okay, IQ.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Daniel, Jiggy's gonna chop this up, I guess. You want to tell the folks how they can get a hold of you and see some of the stuff you do, and because folks, Daniel is really at the top of the food chain. He's wonderful, he's brilliant, and he loves this country. And Daniel, how do they get a hold of you and see your stuff?
Well, I'm honored to work for the David Horowitz Freedom Center. Our site, which has many talented writers, is frontpagemag.com. We've got Robert Spencer there. Jihad Watch, by the way, is part of the David Horowitz Freedom Center. So we have a lot of talented people. We have people who tell the truth about Islam. And these days, practically no other conservative site even does that.
Yeah, no, and I love Robert Spencer. I've had the pleasure of meeting, talking to him on the shows like this, and Joe Kaufman. God, I would love for Joe Kaufman to win that District 25. That's exactly what we need, Daniel, is a guy like Joe Kaufman to go up in Congress.
I agree.
There were so few.
Yeah, Joe Kaufman works with us also.
Right. No, that's what I told you. I love you guys. I've known Joe a long time. A great guy. And well, look, it was a real pleasure for me. It was a real surprise. I have an on again, off again show, the Joe Citizen Show. I'm not worried about that, but that's on joecitizenshow.com for anyone of interest. And but Daniel, it's really been my pleasure to meet you. It was a complete surprise. I had no idea you were coming on, and that was great. I've loved your writings for a long time.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you for a great conversation.
Okay, folks, that's Daniel Greenfield. Check out his stuff. And this is Roger Homefield for the Jiggy Jaguar Show. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye.